Well, can Congress break the gridlock and boost the U.S. economy? What is the future of taxes, spending, regulations? Let's get answers from House Majority Leader Eric Cantor in an exclusive interview with our own Rich Edson. Rich.
Hey, good afternoon, Cheryl. We're just off a panel discussion here. Majority Leader Eric Cantor, thanks so much for joining us. Part of this conversation has been about the rhetoric. Steve Case said that we in Washington should focus less on press releases and more time on compromise. Do you think he was taking a shot at House Republicans there?
No, I think Steve came to the panel with a sense that he believes that we've got a very narrow window we can get something done. Steve Case indicated that it's his belief that the White House is interested in actually doing something to get things done, to grow the economy and help small business people. I'm all for it. And I've said since the president came to Capitol Hill and announced his jobs program that, we're not going to agree with all of it. We don't agree with more stimulus spending. We don't think that worked. But there were plenty of things in his package that we've already passed in the House that we said, yes, we'll embrace that. The president was always about all or nothing, so hopefully Steve's right. Hopefully we'll be
Do you think he's right?
Well, I'm optimistic. I mean, I think that if the White House and the president wants to do something, now is the time. Before tax day, we're going to be bringing to the floor a bill that provides a 20% tax cut for small business people. Now, that's a no-brainer because it sends a signal that finally Washington understands that we need to focus on the private sector and growing our economy. And I'm hopeful that the president will embrace that the Democrats in the House and the Senate will join us in being there for small businessmen and women. That's how we're going to create jobs. That's how we're going to get this economy back to where it needs to be.
Is that tax cut, do you believe, more important than the payroll tax cut?
Well, I think it's important that we resolve the payroll tax issue now, for sure.
Would you do a short-term extension?
I want to see the payroll tax holiday extended for a year. This is where the House Republicans were in December. We are not a party that believes we ought to take more money out of the people who are working right now out of their paychecks.
So you wouldn't do it temporary again?
The onus is really on Harry Reid. And Harry Reid, I think, needs to finally step up and say he's for extending the payroll tax holiday for a year. Stop all the discussion now of 60 days. We can do this. This is not that difficult. It's just like Steve Case said on this panel. We really can do this. These things are not that controversial. Let's set aside those things that are and focus on what we can do. We've got an opportunity, I think, to take advantage of the positive job numbers that existed last Friday. And let's go. Let's all work together to grow the economy.
Do you think it really needs to be paid for? Can't we just do the tax cut?
Well, there's an issue here that Washington has a duty to the beneficiaries of the Social Security Trust Fund, and this is a payroll tax is just that. It is monies that go into the Social Security Trust Fund. We shouldn't be violating that fund. And you know what? I think most people do get that Washington spends entirely too much money. We can come up with some savings here, given the $3 trillion a year that Washington spends. We could come up with some savings so that we could allow the people who are out there with jobs let them know that their taxes are not going to go up.
We talked a little bit about this. You haven't endorsed anyone in the Republican race yet, but if you could just comment on some of the language going back and forth about Bain Capital and this sort of odd argument going on within the Republican Party. It seems more of a Democrat versus Republican issue. What have you thought of the rhetoric?
No, I think that what's very clear is that the individuals on the Republican side of the aisle have a very different philosophical view and vision for where we want to take this country than the president's. I think that's really what's clear. What I'd like to see is more focus on the part of everyone, including the president, is let's stop dividing. Let's stop going for division here. Let's go for multiplication. That's about growing the economy.
Do you think the Republican language has been divisive just between Republicans in this race?
I think that there is a firm sense among the candidates on our side of the aisle that is reflective of a belief in the private sector, that really we've sort of tried the policies of stimulus, of overspending, of incurring more debt, of regulatory policies that actually reek of cronyism. We've seen they don't work, and that's why we want to try something different. It's sort of like people do in their everyday lives. If something doesn't work, you stop doing it and you try something new. That's why we're about a sensible regulatory policy, lower taxes for individuals and businesses, and let's go about growing this economy again.
House Majority Leader Eric Cantor, thanks so much for joining us. Cheryl, back to you.
All right. I'm glad you asked about the endorsement, Rich, and you almost had him. I could see him thinking about it, Rich.
Not quite.
Just a name. That's all we need. Rich Edson, thank you very much. Great interview, sir.